All right, something cool here is with Tommy Vext. How you doing, man?
I'm good, bro. Just chilling. It's a beautiful day in Nashville, Tennessee, and just hanging out.
Now, I just got done listening to Trust the Science. That song is amazing. I see it's tearing up the tracks, which is awesome for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's my first original song release since I like parted with my former label and band and everything, and so yeah. It's also a little controversial, so I'm like, you know what, just roll the dice. I'm just gonna put it out, see how people respond. And so it's cool. It landed at #5 on the billboards for in sales, not even streaming. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and especially in a time when people don't pay for music. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, and also like, I think that time, like with gas being so expensive and inflation being so high, it's like music and I think people start cutting back on cosmetic stuff and entertainment stuff. They don't go to the movies as much, or they don't buy records, or so it's cool to see so much support, and just I think that the song really relates, people relate to it.
Oh, 100%, man. I mean, you're saying what everyone is thinking right now. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. 2 years ago, you got a flu shot, I got a flu shot. No one gave a fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no big deal, whatever.
Now, if you don't get this shot, like you're excluded. You can't go places. You're not allowed to do things.
Yeah, it's very strange. I think particularly with the medical industry, where when we went into lockdown in 2020, the nurses and the EMTs and firefighters and even police and doctors, like, they had to go to work. They were considered essential workers, and we didn't know anything about COVID, dude. It could have been like the bubonic plague, and everyone could have died. Like, we didn't know what it was, and these people suited up and they went to work every day, and they were heroes. And then, a year and a half later, you fire them.
Right.
Well, how is that okay? That was like the last straw for me, because it's like, we've all been doing this dance, with kind of this authoritarian dance, which you could see that, a lot of people in power use the pandemic to make money, and they abuse their power because they had, they showed who they really were. And it's just really sad that the backbone of this country, and the people who bust their ass to make sure that we can have stuff and be safe and be healthy, they're the ones that they punished for not wanting to take an experimental drug. Like, it's weird to me.
No, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, like I mentioned the flu shot before. If you were told that you had to get 4 or 5 flu shots every year, but you could still get the flu, are you still going to get the flu shot? No, of course not.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like, I have friends who, they like, you have a picture of Randy Bly. Like, dude, me and Randy have been boys I've been sober 13 years. We used to drink and do drugs together. We're about a year and a half apart in sobriety. Like when Randy got locked up for that stuff in Czech Republic, where they tried to, they basically tried to extort the band, and they, tried to pinch him for something that he didn't really have any control over. We started like a whole like support group for him of all the other musicians in the industry. And, but even though we've been so close for so many years, our political beliefs in 2020 were so opposing that he hit me up and was like, "Hey man, like I can't follow you on Instagram anymore. It's like too upsetting to me." And I was like, "That's cool, man. I love you. Like, cool. No big deal." And, and I've had multiple other friends like that who, they got vaccinated, and they went along with it, with what they thought. And this is the thing, I never will say, I think that people should do in their heart what is right for them.
Right.
Always, right? And that's what freedom of choice is, right? And that's what medical autonomy is. Like, we have HIPAA for a reason. Like, if you have AIDS or cancer, and so you don't have to tell somebody that, going through an airport, or you know what I mean? Like, that's not it's a law. You're protected. And so I've had so many friends who they went through the whole pandemic and didn't, and they didn't get COVID. And then they got the jab, and within 2 weeks to a month, they got COVID.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy,
So
right?
they were pissed. They're like, dude, I took, I had a friend who was like, man, I got both vaccines and the booster. And he's like, I'll tell you this. He's like, I was more sick than I've ever been in my entire life after the booster. And then I was better. And then I got COVID after. So people are getting mad. You know what I mean? They're pissed.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I know people, I have had family who's gone ahead and got vaccinated. And when they got COVID, they got it as bad where they had to go get treatment. I mean, I have other people who had it and aren't vaccinated and were fine in a day.
Yeah. That's it's all been, I think it's been a money scam. I think what happened is, I think I follow some politicians' stocks, right? You could see what they're trading because it's public information. And they basically, a lot of the places where they continued the lockdowns or had the most strict mandates, the politicians had bought large amount of stock into Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson and Johnson. And then when the mandates are lifted, now you've seen they've short sailed their stocks. I mean, even the CEO of Pfizer sold $400 million worth of stock because they knew that the drug was ineffective, the efficacy was kaput, and the jig was up. And so now, if you want to see what our government is going to do, our government has become so corrupt, it's insane. Like, now they want to wage war against Russia. So all these politicians are buying stock in like Lockheed Martin and all the like industrial war complex stocks, like all these defense contractors and all these companies that build tanks and bombs and all that. That's what they're putting their money into. And they're, anyone who's educated to the way that these people operate, is they're just telegraphing their moves, and it's like, I think that we have to, like, I'm not one of those like, oh, I stand with Ukraine or I stand with Russia. I'm like, I don't think we should be involved.
Right.
I think there's been enough drama and enough bullshit, and I just don't see the value in, that country has those two countries have a long history together. Anyone who's like studied communism or the fall of the Soviet Union or knows about the Orange Revolution or the Color Revolution, Ukraine is not a democracy. Ukraine has fraudulent elections. Their own people know. I have a gold record in Russia. I've played there. I have had met hundreds of Ukrainian fans, because I like literally after the shows get off stage, and because it's so far away and these people saved up, so they save up months to be able to go to a show because it's so expensive. And I'm literally shook hands with thousands of people. Like, I wait till the whole thing's done. You know what I mean? And a lot of these people, and I stay in touch with them. And I had to start a Russian social media because they're getting deleted off Facebook and Instagram because they don't want people sharing information. And it's just like Zelensky is corrupt, Putin is corrupt, the U.S. government is corrupt.
Right.
It's like, so all of the people are we're the ones who are going to suffer. Ukrainian kids and civilians and Russian civilians don't want to fight each other. And we don't want to go fight them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so, like, I just, I think that our country is like, the veil is falling off our government, and we're starting to see how fucked up our government actually really is. And they control what we see, and they've always portrayed themselves as the good guys. And, my father's a Vietnam veteran. I've taken my dad to rehab at the VA hospital, and I've visited those places since I was little. And I know how we don't take care of our veterans. They don't care.
Right.
About the people who put their lives on the line, the survivors of these things who go over and fight and die for all these rich people who don't give a shit about us.
Not in the least bit.
Yeah. So I mean, so it's like, you know, that's the thing too. It's like I have a healthy distrust of all governments, you know, and I think it's weird that like I grew up in the metal scene. I grew up in the CBGBs and the hardcore scene, and then, you know, then I was doing, you know, hardcore bands, metalcore bands. Then I joined Divine Heresy and moved to LA, and I was in the deathcore scene, or, you know, melodic death metal scene, and I did Snot, and then I was in the, like, you know, California punk scene, and all the messages of our kind of music are anti-government and anti-authoritarianism. And you saw, like, in 2020 and 2021, people were like advocating for totalitarianism. You know, it's the most wildest thing to me. I remember I was the first artist in the world to go on tour. Like, most people don't know that. So I went on tour. I did a tour of Texas. I did a sold out tour, 2 weeks in Texas. And some nights I played 2 nights in a row. And I did meet and greets every night because I had already had COVID and beat it. And I was like, if I'm going to go do shows, I'm not going to say you guys have to go in the crowd and be at risk and me stay backstage with my little, you know what I mean, in my little COVID terrarium, like a bubble boy. And I went and I shook hands with like about 400 to 600 people a night, every night. And then I reported all of it on social media, and I was like, yo, this is what we're doing. Like, I'm fine. People, this is not what, you know, I'm like, Florida and Texas are not having all these deaths. It's a lie, you know? And so then everything started then all Live Nation, everyone criticized me before I did it, and they dragged me. But then it was like, oh, all of a sudden, the Monday my tour was over, everyone announced that there were shows happening again.
Right. You know, I do remember that, man. I remember you were the first out there doing shows. Everyone was doing like drive-in shit and, like, you know, virtual, and you were out there. You were like, let's get in these people's faces. Let's show that we're not going to get put back to the dark ages and actually go out and do something, have some fun, live your life.
Well, dude, the thing is that it's the mental aspect of what they did, and it's 100% proven at this point that the lockdowns had no efficacy because it didn't stop the spread. It never did anything. All it did was it made people like Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, you know, more billions of dollars, as if they need more money, you know?
Right.
And it mentally terrorized people, dude. Like, you can't, you know, people have to, I look at the sober community, people need to go to meetings. You know how many people I know died of a relapse during COVID? You know, the just in general, the numbers of more people died in 2021 of opioid and fentanyl overdose than of COVID, but it's not reported.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands of people, you know, and like, that's not okay. People, the suicide rate was like up, what, 16% or something? Don't misquote me. I'd have to reread that. But during the lockdown months, by 2021, from 2019, the suicide rate was astronomically, you know, it was higher than it had ever been. You know, and yeah, that didn't stop them. That was like, well, maybe we should do it because they don't care about us. The only reason COVID's over is because we have elections coming up. There's midterm elections, and the Democrats know that if they don't release their stronghold, there's no way anyone will vote for them. So they're going to they're letting go for now. They're going to try to make it like, and again, there's Republicans who are fucking absolute garbage too. There's no innocent parties anymore, you know? And it just, to me, it's very obvious what's going on. And it's like, as you know, I paid a massive price for caring about people and the truth more than my career.
No, you're one of the few that has been against cancel culture, that battled against it, and you're still standing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, they can only slander you, and they can only do things to you. It's not real. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at my whole career, the past 13 years, and again, like, dude, I'm sober 13 years. When I was an alcoholic, I was not a good guy.
Right.
Right. I grew up in the streets in in Brooklyn, in South Brooklyn. Like, I grew up with it. My dad was absent, and I turned to selling drugs in the street, and I was involved in gang activity. And, I got my life together. My twin brother and I used to be, we used to be thicker than thieves. And, he's in jail doing 20 years for attempted murder. And I got sober and I started nonprofit organizations and I became a counselor, and then I became a multi-platinum selling rock star, I guess, whatever the term is you want to call it. And it's because of our choices, So if you look at everything that I've done my whole career leading up to once I, started talking out about this stuff, I'm in Forbes magazine, I'm in Psychology Today, I'm in all these, all this philanthropy. I was awarded Person of the Year by Rock to Recovery. It was a very, that's a big deal to me, because it's about recognizing like my lifetime of work in the recovery community and how many people's lives I saved. And then you see how they change on you. I mean, even Ivan Moody was a guy who, like, I had to babysit this dude when he was in the depths of his dark drinking, depression and all the drama and chaos that he caused, and then ultimately he got sober, and it was a miracle, dude. Like, I thought he was going to die. And that was one of the most proudest things, was that, me and Zoltan and that band figured a way how to force him to do the thing that was right, to take care of himself. And then in 2021, he started talking shit about me.
Yeah, it's just fucked up, man, for sure.
Yeah, but this is the thing, is like, it's because, like, Ivan hates Trump and supported Joe Biden, and, that's fine. He doesn't get kicked out of his band, even though the rest of his band are conservative. But I got in trouble because I believe and now know for a fact that Trump would be a better president than Joe Biden, because I know a lot about Joe Biden, and so I got punished for going against what the masters were telling us. But, to get back to what I was saying, is like, it wasn't until that point that everybody turned on me. And what kind of like, how are we living now? That this is like, we've made politics into religion.
It's insane to me. I mean, how back in the day, as a musician, your music skills, what your talent is based on how you live your life. Now, if you believe one thing that the mass doesn't, you're a piece of shit, basically, is what they're saying to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other issue too, is like, people, and people compare Trump to, they're like, he's Hitler and he's going to start World War III. And I'm like, dude, everything you guys at this point tried to say he was going to do, you have now done.
Right.
And the other thing too is, all dictators, whether it's Joseph Stalin or, or Hitler or whatever, they're not allowed to be criticized by the media, because they'll be put to death. So just the fact that the American Free Press slaughtered Trump proves that he wasn't a dictator. And like, bro, the media is afraid of Joe Biden. They're scared of him. They don't talk about his son being a child molester or a crackhead or raping kids. That I've seen the actual videos of him having sex with children. It's disgusting, and it's just like, poof, whoosh, like, no, this never happened. It's Russian disinformation. I'm like, dude, this is not like, it's not like Michael Bay went into his production studio and created a fake Hunter Biden with fake wives and fake kids and made a fucking, like, a deep fake. Like, it's just a shitty video. You're like, this is fucked, and so, again, like, it's very scary how things are. And I think more and more people are starting to realize. I think more and more people are waking up, like, people that, people with good hearts, who are genuinely good moral people, went along and did what they were told, thinking that it was going to make things better, and it didn't make anything better, and now they're pissed. And so, I don't think cancel culture is a sustainable culture. I don't think it's just like civil crucifixion. Like, I said things that people who have money and power didn't like, but they're too much of a pussy to kill me.
Right.
Cause you know what I mean? Like, yo, like I'm hard to kill. I've been murdered. Like you show up in my house, it's not you better send a fucking army to come get me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%,
It's
man.
it's not a movie, dog, like, so they can't do that. They're not powerful enough. You know what I mean? So they have to passively aggressively, get people to talk shit or, like, dude, I got fake me too'd in 2020, because I had an ex-girlfriend who was cheating on me with Jennifer Lopez's husband, and I left her. But I also paid all the bills, and when I stopped paying for everything, she basically was like, "Give me $100,000, or I'm going to tell people you beat me." And I was like, and I'm like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, right.
So she tried to do all that, and she lost. We went to criminal court, and the whole, they're like, "There's no evidence of domestic violence," and they threw the case out. So then she was like, "Well, I'm going to get a restraining order against you." I'm like, "I don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
You're crazy." You know what I mean? And I'm like, "You need to get serious help. I don't want anything to do with you." So she went and got a restraining order, and then I fought that. And then even in that, they gave her like a 2-year online bullying restraining order because basically after 10 months of me not saying anything about it and like being harassed, and dude, I mean, every girl I dated, like she called them and like, dude, I had like 9 witnesses, including her former employee, being like, "Yo, this girl's obsessed with him." You know what I mean? They were like, "Oh, well, the judge ruled that there was, the judge said, I'm for the record, there's no evidence here of domestic violence or domestic abuse from Tommy. I'm making a point to say that. But you posted her prostitution page on your Instagram, and that goes against bullying. And so we're going to give you a 2-year online bullying restraining order." So I was like, cool. But the media used that, and they basically posted everywhere that I beat up this girl. And I'm like, "Yo, dude, I'm 6'1". I'm 260 pounds and an amateur bodybuilder. If I hit a man, his head will break like a fucking watermelon." Like,
right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, how could this girl not? She doesn't have a red mark. She doesn't have a scratch. She doesn't have nothing.
You know what I don't get about this Me Too shit is like, if something was going on, wouldn't you say something right then? Why would you wait fucking years to go ahead and say, "Oh my God, this is what happened to me"?
Because of the money. Because what they wanted was she couldn't. She was a trainer, and she couldn't see clients, and and then she started losing money, and I wasn't paying all the bills. So it was like, and it's also a resentment thing. It's like, sometimes, bro, like people, when you're getting I was getting attention. I was getting a lot of attention, like from fans and from, the media still loved me at that point. And, I was doing good things. I was doing benefits and like raising money. And like, I donated, money to the police officers who got shot in Compton that year. I raised like $20,000 for a sober living foundation, because that's what I'm about.
Right.
Like when somebody hates you, they want other people to hate you too, especially like a burnt woman. And it's like, dude, like, I told him this shit. I was like, all you had to do was just not, I was like, please don't hit me, don't cheat on me, and don't lie to me. And you did all 3 things, and now we're over, and that's it. I was like, but in this culture, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter, because there was basically, the whole Me Too movement was just like, believe all women. And you look at what happened to the Decapitated band, right, dude? They're one of the sickest metal bands, and then Decapitated got falsely accused of kidnapping and gang raping a girl. They're from Poland. They got arrested in California and detained for months. They had to drop off their tour, lose all their guarantees. And this literally was because some drunk bitch got a DUI, and it was her, and she was already on probation, and basically got out of the car and to avoid being arrested, started crying because she was drunk and speeding, and she already had a DUI and was like, I was raped.
You know, you're no longer innocent until proven guilty in this country, which is sad.
Yeah, but when they got acquitted, nobody really said anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, dude, like that girl should go to jail for the crime she accused. Like, if you accuse somebody of rape and you didn't get, and nobody raped you and nothing happened, you should go to jail for the amount of time that if a man was convicted of rape. You should go to jail for 5 or 6 years or 10 years or whatever.
Right.
You know, and vice versa. It's not a gender thing. It doesn't matter what your gender is. You know, and our justice system is so fucking screwed up. I mean, dude, people are letting pedophiles now who claim to be transgender out and not have to register as a sex offender. So now you can molest a kid, these sickos who they're just pedophiles. They're not trans people. They're using the trans movement, you know, which all people should be safe and they should be treated with respect and dignity. We all agree on that. But they're now co-opting all this stuff for trans people and then using it to not get in trouble for raping kids, which pedophiles should get the death penalty.
100%, man.
You know what I mean? And so our justice system is like, it's like a coat hanger abortion. It's a fucking mess, you know? So, I mean, there's just so much shit wrong. And these are all more things of like, we don't really need to go to Russia. We have so much shit wrong here. They want to go patrol. They want to protect the Ukrainian border. I'm like, go protect our border.
Yeah. You know, I'm a firm believer of cleaning up your own backyard before you start knocking on your neighbor's doors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't do anything if your own house isn't in order. You know, we have major issues in this country. You know, we have to, I think that a lot of people, dude, there's probably, there's 333 million Americans, right? Mm-hmm. There's probably about 150 million Americans who don't believe that we have fair elections.
Right.
So whether that's true or not, it's on us to ensure that we have election integrity. You know, and then you have some people who are lobbying like you shouldn't have to show ID to go vote. Like, what? So I don't show ID to vote, but I have to show you my vaccine card to get Starbucks.
Right. I mean, that blew my mind this year, man. When I didn't have, when voting went on, when I didn't have to show my license, I could have just said anybody's name and they went me right through, which was fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's just very bizarre, and then like, it's racism. I'm like, dude, I'm so like, as an African American, I'm so sick and tired of this being an excuse. Like, dude, like the real racist people are these liberals think that Black people are idiots, right? They're like, oh, well, Black people don't know how to use a computer. I'm like, what the fuck? Bro, but this is literally what the administration is saying. They're like, oh, Black people don't know how to go to the DMV. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's when? At what point in time? Who doesn't know how to go to the DMV?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, you can, everywhere you go, you need an ID. You have to have ID to go to the club. You have to have ID to get an apartment. You have to have ID to fucking buy a gun. Some places you have to have a license, a state ID to get a job.
Right.
Who doesn't have an ID? What, Black people can't get? Are you fucking high? It blows my mind. I'm like, bro, everything is so ridiculous.
Oh, dude, it's nuts, man. Now, when you go ahead and you speak your beliefs this day and age, it seems like there's like a thin line. I mean, how do you end up on the side where, say, Kid Rock or Ted Nugent can say what they want and everyone supports them, or be on the side where you're Chris Brown from Trapped, you open up your mouth and everyone cancels you?
I mean, I think the difference is, I think the dude from Trapped is like, I think he just goes too hard. And I don't think it's very sophisticated, his method of communication. Like, he'll call stuff out, but he's not really, he's not really, if I had any advice for him, I would be like, come to the table with more information. And, because it's almost like sometimes it's like certain people will just like, I just say the opposite of you just to say the opposite.
Right.
And it might be right, but it's still like you have to provide people with context, and you have to have intellectual discourse, even when people are screaming and yelling at you. You're like, that's when you need to be calm and just like, here's this, here's that, here's that. So people can get mad. People get mad at me and they say all kinds of shit, but I'm just like, I'm like, here's the link. I was like, you should read this. Once in a while I tell people fuck off, but it's like, you have to do something. You have to start to disrespect for me to be like, nah, fuck you. You know what I mean? So, and I think Kid Rock and Ted Nugent can't be canceled because, or Aaron Lewis, because they're already legacy artists, and I was working up to becoming that, hopefully. Like I said, I have 5 number 1 singles. Like, I'm not a one-hit wonder. You know what I mean? Zombie was a hit, but every single single that I wrote and put out was a hit. Everyone, including songs that were re-recorded with somebody else and put out, also went number 1, which shows you how good of a fucking songwriter I am. You know what I mean? So, and that's what it comes down to is like, I think it's just outside of saying whatever you want, when you're really, I think talent speaks too. I think that's what makes it more dangerous, right? Because the white liberals in the music industry, they, whatever their goal is, they can't say I'm racist because I'm Black. They can't say I'm white privileged because I'm Black. They can't say I'm, whatever. They can't call me transphobic because I have friends who are trans and I have friends who are gay. And I hang out with everybody. I'm a hardcore kid. I grew up in a scene where like all these people already were. If you go to a hardcore show, everyone belongs. And I felt like I never belonged till I got into the music scene. And that's so like, I treat people the same way because I know what it's like to be a freak and to be an outcast and have those feelings. And so, I don't think that either political party is a party of full inclusion. I think it's like, it lies in the middle, and we've lost the ability to be in the middle, right? Like, people, like, I don't think abortion should be illegal. But I think that you shouldn't have an abortion if you're 9 months pregnant. That's murder.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's what I believe, right? But so some people who are conservative would be like, you can only think like this, and then other people who are, liberal, I don't believe that we should have socialism because I don't want to have no opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't that we're all created equal, right? LeBron James is a better basketball player than me. I'm a better singer than you, probably. Like, everyone has the things, and in a free market, where we're in a capitalist democracy, the work that we put in, we can get back from. So I don't think like a cab driver should make as much money as a doctor.
100%.
Because a doctor had to go to school for 10 years to be a doctor. So why should he get, and in a socialist or communist society, everyone's just across the board. And I don't think that that's fair. And to be honest, the only people who really like socialisms are underachievers and losers. Right. People who are committed to not getting better at anything.
People who are never going to be shit in the first place. Exactly.
Yeah. It's an attitude thing, like, and so do we all have to now bend to the lowest common denominator? No, everybody should be free to, if you want to just lay around, do that. That's your right. I don't judge that, but it doesn't mean that I should have to be less than because you are less than.
Right.
It does. You know what I mean? Like this whole idea that they've been teaching in colleges and schools of socialism is like, it's there's a good saying. It's a mouse dies in a mouse trap because it doesn't understand why the cheese is free. Just like people die in socialism of starvation because they don't understand why everything is free. You know?
Oh yeah. I mean,
So and these are radical things we're talking about, like, you know. Fucking
I mean, it goes like this, dude. There's plateaus, there's mountains, and there's hills. You know, I mean, unless you want to climb to get to the top, then you're at the bottom. You know, I mean, we are not all on the same playing field.
No, absolutely, 100%. I agree. So, and that's okay because we choose. You know, I'm like, I come from nothing. My mom was a crackhead. I was abandoned in a hospital when I was born. But is that like my excuse? Like, oh, I can't. Yeah, everybody's fucking with me because fucking. Bleh. No, that doesn't matter. You know, it's like Billy, and when he's like, "You get your ass out there and you find that fucking dog." Like, like no excuses. You just got to do what you got. You know, everyone's got to do what they got to do. That's part of this life journey. You know, we're figuring it out. No one has the handbook. It's a struggle. And if you want big things and you want big dreams and you want big money, you want big happiness, you got to do some things. You just got to do big work.
Now, you're one of the prime examples of that. I mean, you know, you went ahead, you have ups and downs in your career. You were on top of it with your last band. They try to take that away from you. Now you went ahead and pushed through and you got Cancel the King coming out on April 1st.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it does, you know? I mean, you know, Trust the Science had no radio. It had no PR. It had nothing. I literally just put it out. And so, you know, the day when I checked the iTunes chart, actually, Robbie, my front of house guy, who all the crew members from Bad Wolf stayed with me when I left, which shows you what kind of boss I am. You know what I mean? And because I take care of my people, you know? And, you know, they were like, yo, look, they're like, dude, we're number 2. And I'm like, holy shit. You know, I was in Houston at the time visiting a friend, and I was like, oh my God. I'm like, Tool put out, and I was like, damn it, Tool. Like, I was like, if they didn't, I was like, we would have been number 1. But, you know, that's good company. And then that night I went to go see Batman, and in the new Batman, they have the Nirvana song, Something in the Way. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, God damn it.
Right.
It's an amazing song. And I'm like, everyone's going to be like, what's that song? All the young people. So then we stayed at the 2 slot for the weekend. And then eventually Nirvana pushed to number 1. But, you know, we landed at top 5, and like, we were amongst Nirvana, Tool, and AC/DC with the live version of Thunderstruck that just came, the re-release.
Right.
And I think about this. I'm like, dude, what has happened to rock music that nothing good is out? That I'm a brand new artist, right? Look, the Lone Wolf is not. People don't know to search for that. It's brand new. You know what I mean? I posted on social media, and you know, people go and check it out. But that's my only thing that I have. You know what I mean? So like, why? That's literally a brand new single. That's the first song from a band that just came out, period. First original song. The whole fucking charts are just filled with classic rock because no rock artists are willing to talk about anything relevant. Everyone's so afraid, like, oh, don't talk about politics, or don't talk about this, or don't, you know, if you want to survive, don't have an opinion. And I'm like, dude, like, you think Marilyn Manson would have worked if he came out with Antichrist Superstar and the label's like, we can't say this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or if like Pantera was like fucking hostile and they're like, you can't say fucking in the lead title of the song, sir. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, dude.
You know, Hurt from 9 Inch Nails. It's a self-harm song. You know, all these songs that are about real shit, the real human experience. Like shit, Eminem couldn't come out today.
No.
Right? Like there's no way he could have come out talking about, you know, killing his ex-girlfriend and burying his mom, you know what I mean? And, you know, shooting bitches and using that, calling people faggot. Like, dude, there's no way he would be allowed to exist. You know, do you think NWA could come out?
Never in a million years, dude. They make people cry tears if they heard that lyric style.
But This is where we've gone in society, like the absolute pussification of society and the censoring of culture. It's made it like, what's the use? Like, what are we doing here? You know, I wish Lamb of God would put out a song. I know Randy doesn't believe it. We have completely opposite opinions, but shit, I want to hear what you have to say in a song.
Right.
Say some shit. Don't, you know what I mean? Like, I want to hear a Five Finger Death Punch song about what they think is going on. What do you guys think? I'm tired of this watered down pussy ass coward shit. And I'm like the fucking zombie guy, bro. Like, I'm like, listen, I'm real about it. I don't think dude, like the bands I listen to, I grew up listening to Meshuggah and Pantera and Candiria. You know what I mean? Like weird shit, and Dillinger Escape Plan. I was going to see Dillinger Escape Plan when most of these kids weren't even born, you know? So, you know, and like, you know, I when I go to the gym, I listen to Code Orange and Ginger, you know what I mean? You know, so I don't, the music I make doesn't fall in line necessarily with the core that I grew up in. But why am I the only one saying anything?
I mean, that's what we need, man. We need more people like you sitting there, you know, having your voice, having your opinion, and saying what's actually going on. This watered down bullshit is making everyone soft in this country.
Well, I think it's like, I mean, they did so, I don't know, like something has to change. Because like I'm not out here trying to be like, oh, me. It's not about me. I'm just like, in order for music to be good, it has to be the truth. Right. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to, dude. You know, bands like Nirvana and you know Soundgarden, and all, like, you know, these guys, they talked about what they were going through, right? They were talking about the you know, this is when the heroin epidemic really exploded in this country on the West Coast. And like, you know, just like the hip hop artists that came out in New York and California, who they were talking about what it was like, the Black experience in America and what they were, you know, these are proletarian anthems. And these are all different kinds of people of all different races and all different backgrounds who all made music that the only thing that's the same between, you know, Wu-Tang Clan and Soundgarden and Pantera and Fiona Apple and, you know what I mean, and Biggie Smalls and Tupac and you know, Deicide, is that they were all being honest.
Right.
And that's what made it good.
Exactly.
100%. You know, so I don't even know, like half these people, I'm like, what do you guys, when you sit down to write a song, what the fuck is your plan? You know? What is the plan? What are you even saying? Nothing.
We're going through what they think is going to get spins out there on the radio instead of speaking their actual voice.
Yeah, well, guess what, bro? You don't need the radio anymore. I've proven that.
100%, man.
Fans have, like, you think Lamb of God's not on the radio? You know, they're on metals. They're on like liquid metal, but they're not like on the radio. And they sell out more tickets and bands than, dude, Bad Wolves is 6 #1 songs. We can't sell tickets like Lamb of God. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, when I was in the band, we did well. I mean, my solo tour sold out, but it's, you know, that's a little different. Like people, I really put my flag in the ground. I was like, yo, people wanted to go somewhere where shit was real. You know? So, you know, I just think like, you know, people not saying anything is just not helping. You know, like for example, Machine Head. Rob Flynn is notoriously a extreme leftist, and I grew up listening to Machine Head. And when I was a kid, would consider myself a Democrat. I changed parties because the parties changed, essentially, who I supported. But we should be allowed to do that. So there are people who voted for Obama and also voted for Donald Trump. Like, I don't understand how that's so mind-boggling to people, you know? And, you know, like, if Rob Flynn comes out with a song all about liberalism and roddy, rah, good. He should.
Right.
Whatever. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you think, then go say that. Go make songs about it. You know, I can't stand this. Like, we can't talk about anything anymore.
Now, during this time when you were going through your battle to try and get this upcoming album out, did you ever think about scrapping it and just redoing it?
No. What do you mean? That's like re-recording the whole thing?
Writing new songs? Yeah, exactly. But they're telling you had such a long battle to finally be able to get your music out there.
Yeah, but this is the thing of like, I think that the opposition underestimated me, right? Like I've been, first of all, getting sober is insane. It's really hard. Most people can't do it, especially when you're born addicted to drugs. You know what I mean? Like it's in my genetics. That was a whole year of my life that I literally dedicated my life to absolutely nothing else but being sober. I slept on a floor for the first 5 months of my sobriety. I worked at a dog kennel for $8 an hour, and I took the bus everywhere and went to 3 meetings a day. And then after my brother tried to murder me, he hired, when I pressed charges against him, he hired a hitman to kill me, and I had to live in the witness protection program, for I think 10 months, with living off $300 a month. I had no money. Right. And I got through that. Like the people that have like tried to go after me, bro, we are not the same. If you put me in a fucking cage with all of them, I guarantee you I would literally kill them all in like 5 minutes and walk out of the cage. Like you could put me against 7 of these men and there's nothing they could do. We're not made the same. And so the best thing this is what toxic masculinity is, beta masculinity. You know what I mean? It's like men who act like women in order to get what they want. They like subvert things. They use money or try to get other people to fight. They slander. They do reputation destruction. These are the things that an angry, obsessed woman does, not what a man does. If a man has a problem with you, he's like, yo, I have a fucking problem with you. How are we going to settle this? And you either settle it as gentlemen through words, or sometimes you got to go fucking punch each other in the face. And then you go buy each other a beer and call it a day. But you live to fight another day. But these are not those kind of men. They lack courage. And the problem is that I think that, the thing that wicked men fear the most is an incorruptible man. And there was no amount of money. There was no amount of threats. There was no amount of reputation destruction. There's no amount of injury to me that was going to stop me from moving forward in getting justice. And I've always been that way, so it's just like, did I get injured in the process? Well, yeah, I mean, you can't, when David goes against Goliath, it's, you're outgunned. You know what I mean? You're outmuscled and outgunned and but at the same time, like what I had to do was I had to represent every person who felt silenced. I had to represent every artist who felt like they were told they can't say how they feel. I had to represent every person who's ever had been put in Facebook jail or Instagram jail because they posted the truth, and the powers that be didn't like that truth. That's what I represent. So I couldn't just be like, take my ball and go home.
Right.
And even if I wanted to, I wasn't allowed to. Right. Like I wasn't allowed to leave. Because I think people realized they made mistakes, and they realized that they were going to lose the financial value of like my fan base, and they don't care. And that's why I tell, like, listen, people should do more investigation into their band, into the record labels of the bands that they support. And you shouldn't buy anything from any record label that engages in cancel culture. Any of them. There's other ways to support artists, because people download music anyway. So you could buy their T-shirts, or you could buy their concert tickets, and that is more of a chance that your money is going to go to helping that artist continue to be and say and do the truth. Because ultimately, it comes down to the problem we've been talking about is nobody's saying anything, is because the band members are being crushed by the industry into fear of being destroyed. So where the industry tried to make an example of me to consolidate and keep their power structure by bullying artists, they fucked up.
Now you have a plan going forward where you're going to release a track every Friday, last Friday. What is it? Last Friday, first Friday of the month?
First Friday of every month for the next 4 months.
And you just put out a cover of Papa Roach, Last Resort, this past Friday. Is that correct?
Well, that I gave out for free. So everybody who joins my mailing list, like it's like the Wolf Pack is what the Bad Wolves fans and like my fans call themselves. So, I have a mailing list, and there's like, there's about, I think there's like 50 to 60,000 people signed up for it. And, you get a heads up on when new music's coming out, but every once in a while, I just give people free stuff to say thank you.
Right.
And it's not released. Like, you can't get it. Don't ask. You have to be a member to get the benefits. So you could go to TommyVextOfficial.com and you can sign up for the newsletter there. And, that's my way of being like, for everybody who bought Trust the Science, I was so touched by the support. I'm like, I'm gonna give these motherfuckers some free shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely.
Yeah. And I'm sitting on so much. I'm sitting on so, like, again, I have like 40 songs in the bag. Plus I have like a bunch of underground material that's being remixed and remastered that never came out. So, there's just going to be, I'd rather just like have my circle of people and supporters, and like, I want to give them stuff. You know what I mean? I give a shit about the people who give a shit about me. And I'm not out here trying to please everybody, Now,
I know there was talk about a covers album. Is that still in the works?
The cover. So the people who did the GoFundMe in 2021, I emailed everyone a free link to download the cover album. So they already got it on Christmas Eve of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, whether that's going to get released on like all streaming platforms, like I'm not 100% sure on. But, or it might, whatever.
Well, let's talk about your career from the beginning, man. You still battle rap?
Nah, dude, I was like 14, 15. That's how we learned that's how we learned. It was like basically the culture in Brooklyn was, you had to learn how to diss people. You know what I mean?
Right.
And make it rhyme. And it was just, it's like literally talking shit and rhyming, but it kind of trains your brain to like do that stuff.
Now you start off with a band, you're doing Vex, they gain attention, some big bands start to pick you up, you go on tour, then Dino catches wind and hires you for Divine Heresy.
Yeah, well, actually what happened was I messaged Dino on MySpace, and I was like, bro, I literally sent him, I was like, I'm the sickest vocalist ever, like, and he was like, okay, bro,
Right.
And he was like, all right, he sent me a demo for a song called Save Yourself, and I went in the studio with Kenny, the drummer of Candaria. He had a recording studio in New York, and so I had no money, and he was like, I was like, dude, I got this. I got to sing for this thing for the Fear Factory guy. And he's like, yeah. He's like, no problem, bro. Like, come on in. And then I sent Dino the song, and, I was living at home at that time, and he called my mom's landline at 2 a.m. and he was in California and I was in New York. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, hello? He's like, yo, it's Dino. I was like, bro, why'd you call my cell phone? Like, yeah. He's like, you're in the band. I was like, cool. And then we didn't talk for a little bit. And Roadrunner United had their 25th anniversary show in New York City. And I knew they were rehearsing at Hammerstein Ballroom because I used to be a security guard there. So I like had my old security shirt. I showed up to the rehearsal and then like with my security to walk past security. And then I changed in the bathroom into plain clothes and literally was just hanging out with like Machine Head and Slipknot and Fear Factory and Sepultura and Anthrax and all the guys. And the singers didn't want to sing. And Rob Flynn was like, yo, do you want to sing my parts right now? Because I've known Rob since I was 16. And, I've sang with Machine Head at CBGB's, when I was a kid. Like, and I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. So I went in, I started singing. And everyone was like, yo, like obviously I had met Dino. That was the second time we met in person. and the Kill Switch guys were there, and Shadows Fall. And so I knew Brian from Shadows Fall because my old band had opened up for them a bunch. And it was just cool. I was just hanging. And then, you know, they were like, yo, do you want to come tomorrow to sound check? I was like, hell yeah. And so they were like, all right, bring him to sound check. So, you know, I'm jamming with like Joey Jordanson and Paul Gray and Adam Deuce. And dude, it was nuts. And the next day I came to the venue, and they were doing the dress rehearsal, and the show was the next night. And I was doing surfacing and by Slipknot, and all of a sudden Corey Taylor comes running onto the stage after, and he's like, dude, what the fuck was that? I was like, oh, nothing, man. He's like, how did you do that? I was like, oh, I know how to change my voice to sound like other singers. And he was like, bro, you're gonna sing with me tomorrow night. I was like, for real? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh my God. So then I was the only non-Roadrunner alumni to sing at Roadrunner United. And so they played Sick, and I came out and I sang the song. And it was so crazy because like they had an open bar, and I was like, I'm not drinking like till the show because I'm not gonna blow this. This is my one moment. And my brother and my friend Rob and my friend Josh all came. They all went to the open bar. They all got wasted. They all got kicked out by security like within 4 hours. Like, and I was like, then I was looking for my friends. I'm like, yo, I'm about to go on, and because I used to work as security, the head of security, Rich, was like, he's like, bro, he's like, your brother and all of them got thrown out. They got into a fight. He's like, you know, he's like, Rob got arrested. Like, what? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he went outside and kicked somebody's car window in drunk, and they put him in handcuffs. I'm like, okay, this shows you the kind of people I used to grow up with. Like, I used to roll with. And so I went and played the show, and my singing teacher, Melissa Cross, was there. She's been my singing teacher for 20 years. And then the next day, I started getting calls like from different people to join bands, you know. And so Rob Caggiano and John Tempesta had a band they wanted me to sing for. And Mike Gitter was like, hey man, I don't know, what about this band? What about that? And then Dean was like, yo, are you trying out for another band? I'm like, I mean, I got offers now. And he's like, bro, he's like, I'm getting you a plane ticket. You're coming to California. I was like, okay, cool. So that's what I did. Then we did Divine Heresy.
Now that band was a stepping stone for you in your life, and it gave you a chance to work with great artists, do some touring, and it also learned to deal with egos.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was young, dude. Like, you know, people don't realize, like, I'm 20 years younger than Dino. And so, you know, I came to California like 23 years old or 24 years old, and I'd been on my own most of my life, you know. And so I didn't really do well with being bossed around, which is a common theme in my life, you know. The Bad Wolf song, No Masters, it's not figurative, it's literal, you know what I mean? And so, you know, we butted heads. At first, we got along really well, but then it's like as things progress, like, and to Dino's credit, he was older, and like I still wanted to party and do drugs and chase chicks and do all that shit, and you know, be reckless and a dumbass. And I'm sure that was probably annoying. And you know, he was very controlling. And so, you know, I'm one of those people, like, you know, if you try to bully me, eventually it's not going to work out. And so, you know, he played a tough guy role for a while, and it worked. And then eventually, like, I just had enough, and I just waxed him. And it was like a big deal, and it was like a big drama. And again, I was still like, you know, I was sober at the time that it happened, but I wasn't like in recovery. I didn't have like tools for living. You know, I was still kind of like a brute strength kind of person, and I didn't have like a spiritual life. And you know, and we got into a couple altercations, and you know, we had gotten into the fight. Then I left the band. Then I auditioned for Snot, and I got that job. And then he was, you know, mad that he had tried calling the guys in the band and threatening them that if they let me in the band, he was gonna fuck with them. And they were like, you know, they were like, okay, bro, you're a fucking clown. And then he talked shit about me in the press, and then we ran into each other, and I beat his ass again. And his wife stabbed me with a bottle, and my sister was there. My sister beat the shit out of his wife, which she tried to blame on me, and blah 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 blah. And then actually, the funny thing is that David Draymond and Ivan were the witnesses to the police. And when the police came, they were going to arrest me because I was like big and strong. And Ivan was like, dude, he's like, I saw the whole thing. She's like, they jumped him and she stabbed him in the head. Look at his head. And I had a circle it's tattooed over of a glass bottle that went in my head like a Corona bottle. And meanwhile, I'm bleeding and I'm like, yeah, I don't even know what happened, bro. I was just a knucklehead, I was just a Cro-Magnon, and then after that, I wound up joining Snot, and I like Sonny helped me get sober, and Sonny May has been sober for 20 years, and I began my journey. Him and his ex-wife, they were like, this kid needs help. He's a good guy, but he's an alcoholic and a drug addict. And so, I started my journey in recovery, and, I'll be indebted to him for forever, man. Like he really, he really helped save my life. And it's one of those things, like, we hit these turning points, right, of where there's a crossroads and you can decide whether you're going to keep going down the road that you're going, which wasn't working out for me, I think that the willingness is the first key, but the steps towards being personally accountable for all your actions is where the change really starts to begin. And that's when I, decided I'm not going to make excuses anymore. I'm not going to blame other people. I'm not going to blame the circumstances of my life or my childhood. I'm like, I'm going to change, and I don't want this anymore. I deserve to have a good life, and I deserve to have good people in my life. And then my life changed. I had to do a lot of work, and I had to do a lot of humility, a lot of humble stuff. And, I think that the first year of sobriety, I look back and I'm like, it was so simple because all I did was like focus on that on being sober, right? Like I was like, I quit doing music. I got a sponsor, and he said, you got to get rid of your career. Like you have to forget about this for a year, because it's like, you're not a rock star, bro. Don't worry about that. He's like, you're sick and you have to get better. And I was like, all right. So, so when I see people committing to self-victimization, it bothers me because I see my old self in that. I'm like, dude, you get like the longer people go on being, well, I can't do this because, now we have this problem in this country where everyone's like, well, I can't be successful because of the color of my skin. And I'm like, that's not true. I can't be successful because I'm trans. I'm like, that's also not true. Well, I can't be successful because I'm gay. I'm like, that's not true. Like, I can't be this because that, or I'm a bad person because I'm white. I'm like, that's not true. Like, none of these things are true. And who we are and where we're going and what we are capable of is determined largely in part by not just our work ethic, but how much we are personally willing to be responsible for our own place in the world. And it's hard to live like that, but the benefits of living like that are life gets big, right? Because every time you make a mistake, you're like, okay, I made a mistake. This is my fault. Somehow I play a role in this, and I need to learn how to not do this so that the next time I do it better. So if you keep thinking like that, every single time you get better at dealing with the problems in life. But if every single time something bad happens, you're like, somebody else did it. You never learn.
Right.
And you never learn to change your circumstances. And like, as much as like people piss me off and I'm like, oh, I fucking hate people, dude, I love humanity, and I see, dude, I have seen people do amazing things from nothing, and we focus so much on like how bad humanity is and how people do horrible things. And it's like, dude, people do wonderful things. I've seen miracles happen. We're not bad. The human race is not bad. People do bad. They're sick spiritually. And if we're going to evolve past all this, we have to continue to communicate, and we have to invest in each other. You know, you can't just invest in yourself with this massive narcissism problem going on because of social media, and everyone's like, oh, my likes or my views. It's like, dude, like, you know, other countries like in China on TikTok, the people who they don't, you know, they don't have people doing stupid dances going viral. They have like engineers and young people who are doing creating incredible things and technologies, and building engines and like, you know, advancing the technology of the nation. And those are the people who are being rewarded on social media, and the social media companies control the algorithms. You know, I'm tired of I'm seeing bad news and hate and fucking gobbledygook, you know, or like, oh, here's another picture of titties. Like, oh, sick. Like, all right, like, how much more titties are we gonna see?
Right.
You know, everyone, like all these women, they're all starting to look the same. You know what I mean? Like they're literally, you know, and listen, if people want to have plastic surgery to do what they want, that's cool. But as a guy, as you know, I'm like, I miss when everybody looked different.
Right.
You know, like there's beautiful things about everyone. And when we're following Hollywood and influencers, we don't need any more influencers. We need leaders.
100%.
Like, you know, I don't care. Like people are like, oh, I take this. I don't care. I don't care what you look like. I don't care about your beauty routine or your ab routine. I'm like, I care about what you stand for. And there's just like nobody, you know, anyone who stands for something, they kind of push you down.
Now going forward, your new persona is the Lone Wolf. Do you think that fits you best? And what I mean by that is there's rock stars that are in bands, but there are also rock stars that are the band.
I mean, look, the you know, my nickname was the Big Bad Wolf for like a decade. So the Bad Wolves is literally me. Even the logo, me and Zoltan made with the shield and the wolf with the cut under its eye, I got stabbed in the face. Like that's me. So it's like, you know, all of my identity is in that branding. And so I'm not gonna just like, you know, I'm just like not gonna just throw that away.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's part of who I am. And you know, the Lone Wolf just makes sense. It's like me going on my own thing, and you know, and I, you know, in this situation again, I am like the primary creative force, and I write all the songs, and you know, Neil's contributed. You know, he's done guitar solos and stuff, but like I have the same writing team I did in Bad Wolves, and so you know, when you hear the new record, it's gonna sound like it's probably gonna sound kind of like where Nation left off, but I think that this record is better. I think it's all the A sides that were supposed to be on the last record when I was in the band, and none of the B sides. So it's just like there's no filler tracks. It's just very simple, start to finish, just bangers.
Now going forward, what are your touring plans for the summer?
I think we're working on a co-headlining tour with Adelita's Way in the US. And so that'll kick off either early August or mid-July for 5 to 6 weeks. And then before the end of the year, I think we probably take a few days off in September and then go to the UK and then Europe, as long as there's not like World War III going on.
Now,
I actually got asked if I would go play in Russia right now, and I'm thinking about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not afraid.
I mean, I didn't know they still had concerts and shit going on there. I mean, it looks like from my version of seeing things, it looks like they're trying to close everything down.
No, the Western world is trying to punish them because they're not going along with the globalist like one world order thing. So if we launch into World War III, what's going to happen is that it's going to be, you know, basically the US has been infiltrated by the globalists. Canada has, many parts of Australia has. many of the EU, the European countries, and the UK are all in this sort of UN coalition of, they want to reset, they want to create, and I'm not making this up. If you read Klaus Schwab's book, The Great Reset, this was the plan. They want to change they want to create an industrial revolution by changing the monetary system and getting rid of money and having a universal, like Bitcoin,
right?
The digital currency for all these countries. And Russia is not okay with it, and China is not okay with it, and I think North Korea is not going to be okay with it. And India is not going to be okay with it. So what the problem is that what's happened is as these globalists who have kind of infiltrated all of our countries are literally co-opting and using these countries to do all this stuff. The nations that don't go along with it, they're going to be perceived in the media as like, evil and, Hitler and this, that, the other one, and when quite inversely, the truth is the opposite. And, they're going to want to wage war on them in order to overthrow them. But I don't think it's going to go very well, because Russia and China have nuclear powers and, we can't really, everything we have is made in China.
Right.
So, it's really, and again, it's like American citizens, Canadian citizens, like no Americans support Joe Biden, or none. Even the most diehard leftists, the only people who are talking on behalf of that administration are on the payroll. Like the blue checks on Twitter, the idiots in the media who are constantly getting, they're getting paychecks to be like hyping up bullshit. No one supports Trudeau in Canada. They want him gone. The whole nation. The people are finally united on a front against against our governments. But they have so much power. They're like, we're going to do what we want anyway. So, to me, I don't think that Russia is our enemy. I don't think China is our enemy. I think that they've done bad things. I think our country has done terrible things, and this is just what's been going on. And I think we're all starting to get a more accurate sense of geopolitical corruption. And I just don't think people are going to go along with this. And like, we have to avoid allowing them to go into a world war at any costs. We can't allow it. Not going to do any good. I don't, at this point, there could be another 9/11, and I literally believe Putin more than Joe Biden.
Right.
Like, it's that bad. It's like that bad that I have more faith in the words of foreign dictators than our own president.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, think about it. I mean, there has been issues over the years, and nothing came to this until this president came into play. I mean, for years, there's been, a threat of Russia or this or that. Nothing came in play. Now, all of a sudden, Biden's there, and we're about to go on World War III.
Well, that's the thing is, like, that's the difference between leadership. People didn't like Trump, and I understand for multiple reasons, right? Like Trump, he's not perfect by any means. He's not always right. I think him warp speeding the vaccines was I think that's been his biggest mistake, and just his, like, some of his personality stuff. He basically gave the media enough to make it look like he was a psychopath. But at the same time, his unpredictability, whether it made all the people in America like, all the people who were scared, he scared the dictators. Like, dude, Putin is afraid of Trump.
Right.
Xi Jinping is afraid of Trump. Kim Jong-un is there. These are world, and they're like, they're like, this guy, those dudes are all crazy and narcissistic and whatever. And they're like, this dude's nuts. Like, right. We don't do, like, he, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know what Trump will do. And I think Americans, we've been too insulated to understand why that was valuable to the unpredictability. And the news sensationalized it. And it's also because the news is owned by the same globalists who want to see this whole reset thing happen. So of course they're going to go after a guy who's standing up for capitalism, you know, and you know, at this point, the news has no credibility. Like Joe Rogan and Russell Brand have more journalistic integrity and trust than any media outlet on the planet. And that's why they tried to cancel them. We're going to cancel Joe Rogan. Why? Because he's bringing in doctors who are the foremost, like, important minds on the planet who worked on COVID and found the solutions and have broken down and understand what's wrong. And it doesn't go with our narrative. So we got to get rid of them. Like, what?
Right.
But that's insane. So obviously the game is rigged. What's going, you know what I mean? What the fuck is going on?
Oh yeah. I mean, you guys got like Neil Young there saying that I'm going to pull my music out because I don't agree with Joe Rogan. If you're going to have him, you got to choose me or him.
The funny thing is that Neil Young, I exposed him. He sold his entire publishing catalog at Spotify to Blackguard, which is a Chinese company that he doesn't even make money off Spotify anymore. He just sold it for a lump sum for tens of millions of dollars. So they're probably just telling him what to say.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it comes down, it's just like at this point, it's just when every celebrity should shut the fuck up or get smacked the fuck down. That's where we're at. You know, all of them, it's like, shut the fuck up. Like when the whole, you know, for 2 years, the shit hit the fan, you guys said nothing, right? The riots happened, this, that, the other. People were smashing police officers with bottles, shooting cops. You said nothing. Nothing. These celebrities, I'm like, you don't get to speak.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's where I'm at. I'm like, you don't get to speak anymore. Just shut the fuck up and do your little dance and shut your fucking mouth and entertain us. Like you have no voice anymore of decency or respect because you don't stand for people. You stand for yourself. You're in solidarity of self. You're like, oh, I got to protect my neck. You know, so I don't care what any, like, you know, I don't care what celebrities say. It's like, you know, Kim Kardashian last week was like, you know, people, whatever happened to good old fashioned hard work, like people just don't want to do the work anymore. And you just got to get up and do the work. I'm like, bitch, you sucked dick and became famous for sucking dick.
Right.
Who the fuck do you think you are? Your fucking father was one of the most richest, most famous attorneys in Los Angeles on some of the biggest cases in the world. I'm like, you were born into an oligarchy for all intents and purposes. And then you went from being this, like literally this girl was organizing Paris Hilton's like closets. That was her job. And then she met Ray J, a D-list celebrity, and sucked his dick. And then they put out the fucking porno by themselves so she could become famous. I'm like, you don't get to talk, simple bitch. Shut your fucking mouth. The rest of us had to fucking eat shit every fucking day and do all the fucking shit that you can't even imagine to get to where we are. And your family gets a TV show because you're rich. If you weren't rich, nobody would watch you. The only reason people watch this shit in your fucking goofy lives is because people wish they were born in a tower with a silver spoon and didn't have to work every day. So they entertain themselves by watching your stupid ass life, pretending what it would be like if they could just be born into a rich family and suck a dick and be multi-millionaires. Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
What the fuck have you done?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, what you used to have to come, you know, people used to come to this country from all over the place and they'd fucking eat dirt and bust their ass and live on a park bench. to just make it. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Like, why are we celebrating these fucking cocksuckers, literal cocksuckers? What the fuck? You know? And it's and it like, do your thing, but like, why are we pretending? You know?
Exactly,
and,
man.
Like, it's like, I've dated fucking sex workers and stuff, and like, dude, there's nothing weirder to me than a liberal sex worker. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, listen, I am not the arbiter of other people's sexual behaviors. Whatever you want to do, as long as you don't fucking hurt kids or animals, I don't care who you fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if you make money doing it. I don't give a shit. But to come out here and like these sex workers who are like, fuck men. I'm like, yo, without men, you'd be working at fucking Starbucks.
Right.
What the fuck are you talking about? You're like, oh, men are pigs, men are bastards. I'm like, nigga, men pay your livelihoods. You're on OnlyFans jerking off. You're like, sex work is real work. I'm like, jerking off is not a job. I'm glad that you figured out a way to make money off of it, but then you can't be mad at your primary fan base. That's like going on stage and Corey Taylor going on at Slipknot and be like, all of you guys who came to buy tickets for my show are pieces of shit. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, how dare you?
Like, what are you talking about? Like, huh? You know, we live in a fucking the internet has created an upside down world. You know, and it's what you're really saying is you hate what you're doing for money, and rather than stop doing it because you're addicted to making the money, you're gonna blame the people who are giving you money to do the thing that you're doing. You know what I mean? And it's like, just shut the fuck up. Shut up.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. How dare you give me cash, you fucking bastard?
Yeah, like, men want is one thing. I'm like, all you're offering them is one thing.
Yeah, you're not charging for lectures on fucking OnlyFans. You're showing your puss.
Yeah, and that's, listen, and again, no judgment.
Exactly, you know?
Don't be mad at your supporters. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I can't fucking believe that I gotta go drive my brand new car in my sick apartment, you know, and then go home and work for 1 hour a week, touching my pussy. Men are pieces of shit. What the fuck, bro? Like, what the fuck? It's fucking crazy. I was like, you don't even do anything. This is gonna get a lot of people pissed off too. Like, I'm gonna get people like, it's not this, it is a job. I'm like, yeah, sure, fucking whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You know, where do I sign up?
I was a janitor in the fucking public school systems in New York City when I turned 18. That was like my first like legitimate job. And I remember working, and dude, there was like, I worked in the ghetto, and they had like lunch programs for kids who couldn't afford lunch. But dude, the kids would come in, and after they leave after free lunch, these kids shit on the ceiling, bro. Like, they would like go in the toilet and throw shit all over the bathroom like fucking animals. And I like at least 3 times a week, I gotta go get a ladder and fucking scrape
shit off the fucking ceiling
and try to mop a ceiling without getting the shit water to fall on me, bro. I'm like, that's a fucking job, bro. For fucking $50 an hour. I'm like, that's a job. Fuck you.
100%, man. Fucking,
you know, and I never complained. You never catch me. I'm like, man, because what are you going to do? Who am I going to complain to? The other janitors, the 40, 50-year-old janitors, like, I've been cleaning up shit for 50 years. Fuck you, Sonny. You know? I'm like, yo, this is a shitty job.
Yeah, legitimately. You know? Fucking.
Yeah, there's 20 worse. People have lost perspective. You know, it's like getting to go on stage and being on a band doesn't mean you're curing cancer. Like, dude, some of these guys, their egos are so crazy. I'm like, yo, like, you don't even do anything. This is the best shit ever. Right. You mean they're gonna drive around the whole? Like, think about this. I'm in a band with a bunch of dudes who don't have to write songs. They don't have to be good at anything. They just have to play the covers that are provided to them. They get paid a salary. Hot girls who would never fuck them want to fuck them. You know what I mean? And they're in, you get to be in magazines and have followers and all this other shit. I'm like, this is great. What is everyone complaining about?
Exactly. You know,
I'm like, dude, don't you remember like 2 years ago when you were driving Uber? That sucks. I fucking work. I just work my whole life. I'm like, it's this, if there was no such thing as the industry of the music, there'd be no problems. The problem is that the people who, want to control everything, it makes it miserable because they just constantly try to wring you out. They wring out all the good shit out of it. So you're like, you can't even vibe out. And they're like, oh, you got to go do this. You got to go do that. You got to go do this. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And if you say no, they make a catastrophic 9/11 event out of you saying no. Like, I need a break today. And then 400 people call you and they basically psychologically bully you into doing whatever fucking interview or going to meet some, they want you to like meet other rich people who are important, who don't give a fuck about you anyway. You know what I mean? It's like it's all this.
Right.
Well, this person could be really good for your career. I'm like, no, what happened is that you promised somebody that they could go hang out with me that I don't like or have anything in common with. And now you're forcing me to do it. And I'm like, I'm tired. Those are the things that are annoying. But again, it's still better than scraping shit off a ceiling.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, it's all perspective, bro. Anyway.
Pros and cons there for sure.
Yeah. But I think we've been talking for like 2 hours, bro.
Yeah, we're getting up there, man, for sure.
That's how you know it's real.
So what I'm going to ask you this now is, with touring coming up, man, are your ticket prices going to have to go up because the price of gas is fucking getting crazy out there?
No, I actually was considering having my guarantees go down so the prices will go down, because I am not concerned about money. You know what I mean? I have basically, like, I try to create multiple streams of revenue so that I'm not destitute if I don't make a shit ton of money on tour. And I've been doing that because I never made any money in Bad Wolves.
Right.
I went from making $250,000 a year, owning my own sober coaching company, to making $37,000 a year, singing in a band that had platinum records and #1 hits and all this. You know what I mean? So I made no money touring then. So now I just I set it up so that I think I don't know what the solution is. It's either going to have to be, we're going to have to add more dates because people don't want to drive really far because gas is so expensive. Or, we're going to have to figure it out so that, maybe I usually do free meet and greets, but I might have to do like exclusive meet and greets. And then the money from the meet and greets is going to help go to the gas bill. Because in 2021, I did like $30 and $40 tickets as a headliner, and I sold out a lot of venues at that price. But gas was not expensive like that, and there wasn't any other tours. Like no one else was really doing shows like that last summer. So, and I also think that there was like a fucking, there was more of like I don't know. It was just happening. So I don't know. Yeah, and it's like I did well, and then it's again like people don't understand the music industry. Like I brought in $980,000 in 2021 with no album out, just shows and shirts, and I made $0 personally. It was like $150,000 spent on the bus, and then another 100 and something spent on salaries, and then video music budgets, and then paying to fucking for the lighting boards, and then then the bus breaks down, then we got to rent trucks, and then we'd have to rent 2 vans, and flights, and it just gets expensive.
See, that's the one aspect I think fans don't realize is that the cost of going on tour, putting out an album, things like that. I mean, they need to go ahead and support these bands and get a concert ticket, buy a fucking t-shirt, get a hat. Yeah,
well, I mean, again, that's why I give people free stuff.
Right.
I don't I'm not a salesman. I'm not like, hey, come, I hate all that shit. Like, I hate influencing. Like, people like, oh, come buy my shit. Like, oh yeah, try this, try that. I'm like, look, I make songs. If my song is good, just pay for it. If you don't want to pay for it, you don't have the money. If you don't have $1, all right, whatever, bro. I don't give a fuck. I'm not out here trying to convince people. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not selling records, it's because my record's not good enough, and then I got to go back in and make a better one, because I take extreme responsibility for myself.
See, that's a good mindset to have. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of these people think, fucking, why me? Why isn't my shit going the way it's supposed to go? What are these people doing to fuck me over? You have the mindset of going, if I didn't do it right, fuck it. I got to go out there and grind even harder.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I've been fucked over more than anybody in the music industry in the past fucking 5 years. Like, I've absolutely been fucked over, but I'm not gonna cry about it. Who cares? Like, all right, cool. Obviously, I'm doing fine.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like, if what I'm doing is working, then it's right. Then I have to keep doing it and get better and better and better and better at doing it. Otherwise, what are we doing? You know?
100%, man. I mean,
so, and I think too, it's like people get comfortable. There's a lot of bands that I love that, like, they haven't made a good record in a couple of years. There's not that much good shit going on, especially from older bands. It's like bands I'm like, yeah, fucking, sometimes I wonder, like, Pantera is probably my all-time favorite band, but I'm like, dude, if they were still together, I'm like, would they have made some shitty records? Because, like, they literally only made banger records, And then same thing with Tool. I'm like, well, Tool doesn't really make albums that often. If they put out an album every 2 years, like, maybe they make some fucking garbage, Now
you see bands like Tool, though, but they're starting to do the gimmick shit to go ahead and get fans. I mean, if you've noticed their Instagram, they're doing shit where he's playing fucking Django behind the drums, or today he released a video where he put a dildo instead of a drumstick up and shit, man. I mean, that wasn't Tool from years ago that it's doing this shit to gain attention these days.
Yeah, I mean, Tool always was a band of their mystery was intriguing, and because they pulled back, they're like the opposite of what I was with Bad Wolves. Rather than the singer be the center of attention and their opinions and life stories be the basis of the band, they really pulled back. And the music, it was all about the music. But the way that Tool writes songs is the music is, the vocals don't carry the songs and the vocals work together. And that's the kind of band they are. That's the kind of band, Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin were. And, it's just not the kind of band that we were. And I think the mystery of them was always like, oh shit, like Tool. And they're from a different time where they got established on people not really having any exposure to them. You know what I mean? And they were very kind of secretive of who they were. And I think a lot of young marketing companies, they come up with these fucking stupid ideas. Like, oh, we should fucking have the guy holding a dildo. And they're like, oh, that's pretty funny. And you know what I mean?
Right.
Out of touch shit. And you're like, yeah, like, okay. Like, even me, I marketed like my former Instagram. Like, dude, I did all the things. I marketed myself. I like logged my weight loss journey and like, all that stuff. And I talked about mental health and, way before I even talked about any political stuff. I just always talked about real shit. But it gets weird. Like, too many people eventually know too much about you.
Right.
That's
one thing that's got to feel fucking awkward. These people think like they don't know you from Adam, but they think you're best friends because they've been able to look at every aspect of your life. I mean, there's no more mystery anymore. Like back in the day, that the whole thing about, did Ozzy really snort ants? Did these dudes fucking piss on each other? Things like that back in the day it was a mystery. Could it happen? Maybe. Who knows? Now, if it ain't documented.
Like Marilyn Manson removed his rib to suck his own dick. Like, ooh,
Right.
Like, well, like I remember I went to see Manson in 1996. It was October 29th, and everybody was like, he's going to commit suicide on Halloween. Like, So the whole tour sold out. You know what I mean? We had to get scalp tickets. So like, we got scalp tickets for $40, which was like double the price, right? It was 1996. Like a concert ticket was $20. And we're like, dude, he's going to do it. And then like, November 1st came around and we're like, he didn't do it. I'm so glad he's not dead,
Right.
But we were 15-year-old kids. Like we were, it's like the equivalent of like Kiss, for our parents' generation. Like, oh my God, Knights in Satan's Service. They're like, that's not what it stands for. It's just Kiss. Like,
Uh-huh.
So it just, all that fun stuff is kind of out the window. It is weird though, like having I think the most that it affected me was in my dating life. I've gone on dates and like with women that like they're like already know everything about me. I'm like, so then you're like, what do I even talk to you about? You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, well, okay, what's your story? Well, like, oh, well, it's like, no, it's weird. Don't Google people before you go on a date with them. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely got to be a little awkward there.
At least I still get dates. You know what I mean? That's all.
Now, people are watching. They want to follow up. They want to get the album. They want to be part of the club. Where do they go? What do they do for everything?
Yeah, well, if you follow me on Instagram, you have to type out my full name because I'm shadow banned. So it's free Tommy Vext and the whole thing. And there's going to probably be like 100 fake profiles. So I'm the one with like 150,000 followers, which is cool because they deleted me in November at 320,000. So we're almost halfway there. So slow and steady wins the race. I'm sure as soon as I get to like 300,000 or 400,000, they're going to delete me again. They'll be like, he's got to go.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
Fucking goddamn fucking, making common sense, talking to,
How dare this motherfucker speak straight.
Oxychloroquine, we got to delete him, Like, I'm telling people that when I took it and I felt better, like that happened to me. I got COVID the second time. I took hydroxychloroquine and I tested negative in 6 hours. I was like, yo, this is amazing.
Right.
It literally works. I was feeling like shit. I took it. I drank a lot of water. I laid down. I got up and I was like, took a test and I was like, I'm fine.
How dare
I was
you?
like, I'm keeping this from people,
You know why? It's because they ain't making the money off it. You know what I mean? If it there was a big, huge price tag they could slap on there and throw out there, it'd be everywhere.
Yeah, because it's literally $1 a pill. That's why they can't make money off of it. A box is $20. Crazy. But anyway, so follow me there. I'm on Facebook at I'm on Facebook at Tommy is Vexed. I'm on Twitter at TVexed. I'm on Truth Social. I know there's a long waiting list, but I'm on there at Tommy Vext. And then you can follow me on my website. The best thing to do, to be honest, and this is for anybody who is like, shadow banned or getting their, bottlenecked by social media, is sign up for my website at TommyVextOfficial.com. We do sales. We did like 2 weeks ago, we did like a 50% off everything sale for like 5 days and then sold out of inventory, like literally in the second or third day. And so it's just like, I really appreciate the people who support me and follow me. And so like I make things available for them that are special to say thank you. You know what I mean? Because I'm, again, like you could tell, like I'm not really a monetarily driven person. I'm like a community building driven person. And like I want to, I want people to I guess feel like I want them to know I give a shit. You know what I mean? So I like to be able to give exclusive things and be like, yo, because I know that supporting me also is kind of like a taboo thing. People are like, oh, like Tommy Vext. I'm like, oh, fuck that guy, and you're like, no, I fuck with that guy,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And they can go there and get your zombie drops too?
They're out of print, but I might make some more. Yeah, I was the CBD oil stuff that I was doing. It's like no THC, because obviously I have PTSD, and so it helps with anxiety and stuff. I take it before I go to bed, or if I have like I'm overwhelmed with work stuff. It's pretty good.
Yeah, man, it's medicine out there now. I mean, it's shown proof that it's helping for sure.
Yeah, and so especially people who are like really dealing with some anxiousness and stuff, it's like a non-narcotic way of fucking, just getting taking the edge off. And it doesn't count as a relapse. There's no THC in it. It's not going to make you high or fucked up or anything. It'll just help you to like relax a little bit and not be so like on edge.
Fucking more people need these days, man, is get that edge off their life.
I mean, yeah, that's what we need concerts for, you know?
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, listen, man, I'm gonna go to the gym before my next interview. And dude, thank you so much. Like, this has been a great conversation, man. Thank you for like real questions.
Hey, man, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I loved everything you had to say, and it was like, honestly, it was great being real with somebody for once.
Yeah, of course, man. And then what city are you in?
Buffalo.
All right. So, I mean, I don't know when we're going to probably be somewhere by Syracuse or something this summer, but just get my contact from Sean and like, just come hang out. If you want to shoot the show, like we just hang out, whatever.
Definitely, man, for sure.
All right. Sounds good, bro. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for everything.
Yeah. Take care of yourself, man.
All right, brother. Peace.